You're listening to the Main Column Podcast, brought to you by Hydrocarbon Processing. Each episode delves into critical topics, including technology advancements, sustainability, energy transition, and operational excellence. Join us as we navigate the industry's complexities, offering valuable perspectives and insights that empower professionals to make informed decisions and lead confidently. Now, here's today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest installment of the Main Column. My name is Tyler Campbell, editor for Hydrocarbon Processing magazine, and I'll be your host for today's episode. Today, we are joined by Keven Dunphy, Vice President and General Manager at Emerson. How are you doing today, Keven?
Good afternoon, Tyler. A pleasure to be with you.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you. So do you want to start by giving the audience a bit of brief background of your role with the company and Emerson as a whole?
Sure. Well, I'm the Vice President and General Manager of one of the business units within the measurement and analytical business platform of the Emerson automation organization. I lead an organization that focuses on delivering engineered solutions and lifecycle services to the products and portfolio of the measurement solutions business. This is one of the primary measurement platforms of Emerson. And as one of the three business leaders, I lead the global business based out of Houston.
All right. Thank you for that, Keven. Okay, so for the first question, what recent technological advancements have had the most significant impact on the efficiency and safety of hydrocarbon processing applications? And how are they being implemented by operating companies and assisted by suppliers?
Sure. Well, Tyler, at Emerson, we have the opportunity to provide a variety of touch points to our customers that impact the safety and efficiency of hydrocarbon processing. We start by talking about our products. And we have a history of innovation in introducing new products that expand the portfolio of offerings of how do we bring about solutions to our customers. And so things like advances in Coriolis flow metering technology with Micromotion's new G-Series product line, which is a compact Coriolis technology that expands the offering of Coriolis into new kinds of flow measurement technologies, or new radar level technologies that allow us to expand the use of level technology into applications that we have not been able to serve in the past. Or the most perhaps exciting acquisition that has happened is the addition of a non-intrusive flow measurement technology through the FlexSim product offering that's been added to our portfolio of companies in the recent months. These kind of product innovations form that foundation of touch point for how we at Emerson, impact our customers and their ability to make the most challenging and most difficult measurement points in their processes to improve their organizations. But what we add to that is the ability to combine this together into technological solutions that do things like process gas solutions, where a gas chromatograph comes together into a sample system to impact an individual processing unit, or a custody transfer metering system where we're moving hydrocarbons around in the buying and selling of the hydrocarbon products. These kind of solution areas are the areas where customers are expecting us to add incremental value over and above just the supply of our individual world-class devices, and bring it together into an overall solution for our customers.
Okay, so all these these offerings with Coriolis flow meter and this new acquisition you just spoke of. But I guess to speak more on that, I guess what's the thought process behind this for Emerson?
Sure. So what customers are asking us to do is to respond to their demands to improve efficiency and improve the overall productivity of their operations, while they address these demands to be more sustainable, to be more efficient, to be more more improvements in their operational parameters. So they're expecting a supplier like Emerson to step forward with the application of new technologies, like a non-intrusive flow technology that allows us to bring flow measurement solutions to points that in the past would have required us to break the processing line to move in, maybe a high pressure or a high temperature or a more challenging pipeline application. That lets us get into things and to give data into the operating units that allow them to take action to improve their overall processes. Those actions are all enabled by new technologies and new innovations that combine together with our ability to offer a solution.
And I'm assuming all these solutions save cost.
So certainly cost reduction becomes one of the primary drivers of this, but there's both cost savings at the initial side of the transaction. So when we're doing a capital project for perhaps, or when we're trying to retrofit something into an existing operation. But the real driver that a customer is expecting Emerson to do is to create value over the life cycle of the engagement of the products and solutions in their plants and their operations. These facilities that people are putting in place are expected to be operating for many decades, and it's the impact of the performance over that entire life cycle that they're judging the performance of Emerson's impact on their operations.
Gotcha. All right. So quick changes for the long haul.
Exactly. Certainly, when we deal with a new capital project, there could be a commercial consideration about the initial costs that all have to be meeting the initial budgets of these projects. But the decision criteria of why someone partners with Emerson is because not only are we executing the projects well initially, but we're there for the long haul. We're there for the life cycle support over the many decades that these processing units are going to be in place.
Fair enough. Thank you, Keven. So how have recent fluctuations in hydrocarbon investments and the adoption of renewable energies influenced by hydrocarbon processing industry? And what strategies are being employed by operating companies and their suppliers to adapt to these changes?
Sure. It is a dynamic environment, especially in the world post-COVID, that we're continuing to operate in. An energy transition is going on around the world where we're embracing a greater engagement of sustainability, a greater engagement of renewables, while we continue to meet the economic demands of our day-to-day economies. So the use of hydrocarbons, the use of petrochemicals, the use in the downstream chemical processes, they all continue to be a key driver while all of the users are trying to figure out how do we make these processes more sustainable, more efficient, and more productive. Post-COVID, when we had this kind of huge, unexpected black swan disruption, we're seeing lots of engagement in how the capital spend is recovering. And right now, as we sit here in the kind of the beginning of fall of 2024, we see a pretty robust capital environment across the hydrocarbon arena, a capital environment that looks perhaps different from supply chain disruptions or COVID, COVID impacts. So it's a pretty robust market from an overall investment portfolio of how we move forward together. But a lot of people struggled, a lot of suppliers struggled to meet the needs of the world as the ups and downs of investments progressed over the last years. And we saw some competitors not be able to hazard through the financial upheavals that impacted all of us. And we saw supply chain disruptions rear their heads in ways that were new and unexpected, based on past experiences. We're getting through all of that now, and we can say confidently that supply chains has largely mitigated as an impact. We're seeing great ability to supply the product in the timelines that individuals are looking for, and we're moving together on the fulfillment of capital project engagements that allow us to move forward with enthusiasm and excitement as I look at the end of 24 and into the beginning of the capital cycle in 25.
So do you anticipate an uptick in investments in 2025?
I would offer that our view is that the capital environment is kind of flat, couple percent growth, keeping pace with a more normal inflationary environment. So we're not dealing with a massive upswing. We're certainly not dealing with any kind of downturn. This is a year-over-year capital investment arena that has that has a relatively flat, a little bit of an upside to it. That's a good environment. That's an environment in which projects continue to move forward, and we're moving with an understanding that the overall geopolitical and geoeconomics are all going to support continued investment trends in the hydrocarbon business. Of course, disruptions like the conflict in Europe and the changes in the flow of oil that occur as Russia moves around, those things cause changes. But within that environment, we certainly see an economic condition that bodes well into the coming year.
Excellent. So, in light of increasing environmental regulations and sustainability goals, what steps are operating companies taking to reduce the environmental footprint of their hydrocarbon processing operations, and how are their suppliers assisting?
Sure. Well, the hydrocarbon processing companies around the world are expecting their suppliers, especially automation suppliers like Emerson, to come forward with solutions that assist them in moving forward with real impact in the arena of sustainability and renewability. And Emerson has articulated an engagement model that allows us to talk to our customers about how Emerson is stepping forward. We call it the greening by Emerson, the greening of Emerson, and the greening with Emerson. And so Emerson has a responsibility ourselves to take on a net zero challenge. And a net zero operational goal for Emerson's own operations by 2030 is what we call the greening of Emerson. But Emerson's operations are not really that energy intensive. We have real steps that we can take in order to improve our own operations. But the real impact we have in our customers' arena is how the greening by Emerson, the impact that our solutions and our automation has on our customers. And so going into a hydrocarbon operation and bringing world-class technology allows those operations to be more efficient, more effective, and using less energy. That in turn allows those processing units to map out their impact on society and the environmental elements. And then we have an obligation as a member of this community. We have an obligation to show how we can green with Emerson. How do we help develop a hydrocarbon infrastructure? How do we help develop the standards around measuring and using CO2? How do we develop expectations around continuous emissions environment as examples? And Emerson just recently announced an engagement with the Greentown Labs, an innovation ecosystem that's based here in Houston, and how we're working with participants in that innovation lab in order to map out the application of our automation solutions into their technologies and offerings.
All right, greening by Emerson, kind of like it.
Yes, greening of, greening by, greening with. That's a great framework, I find, for having a really productive conversation with our customers about how we take on responsibility for ourselves. We in turn take on responsibility for how we're helping to impact their own efforts, and then helping to progress the entire conversation of moving sustainability forward in a pragmatic and impactful way.
Greening of, by, and with Emerson. All right, so. Like I said, yeah, great tagline right there. I love it. So to further speak about sustainability and greening Emerson, what sectors within the energy transition market are currently attracting the most investment, and how is Emerson and its partners positioning themselves to capitalize on these growth areas?
Right. And so when we start to engage in this arena of sustainability, there's kind of three core places that I find myself talking to customers on a day-to-day basis. We see a lot of people talking about how we're going to be using alternative ways to generate fuel. And so whether that's a hydrogen or a hydrogen blend into a natural gas, or whether that's in the LNG value stream in order to more effectively create the movement of natural gas into LNG liquefaction, and then in turn to the LNG users. These areas of energy transition that occur are areas that customers come and engage a lot of questions with us about how do we tackle these challenges of deploying a hydrogen measurement system or a CO2 sequestration measurement system or operate a new LNG liquefaction facility more efficiently and effectively. Those conversations are very pragmatic conversations where we say we're moving large quantities of hydrogen quantities that have never been moved before. How do we effectively make those measurements so that we're doing it safely and efficiently? We're moving CO2 into places, collecting it, moving it around, and then sequestering it in locations. CO2 it's got its own unique challenges as a fluid. It's not a typical Newtonian fluid, so it doesn't operate in exactly the same ways, and that presents some interesting technical challenges that I find myself talking to customers a lot about how do we tackle those challenges. And then investments in LNG, whether it's here on the Gulf Coast, whether it was in Mozambique, whether it's in Qatar, whether it's in Australia, these investments in the LNG value stream are driving a big engagement point across the Emerson portfolio to see how do we bring real pragmatic solutions to improve the effectiveness and the efficiency of these new application categories.
So would this be a part of the buy or with?
So these would be great examples of greening buy with Emerson, in which Emerson's bringing forward our solutions to help the customers in their applications. And so if an air separation company wants to measure a large volume of hydrogen that's being moved into a electrolysis type application, as an example, then they would come to us and say, show us how your flow meters, perhaps your Coriolis meters and your overall measurement solution can help us measure effectively the amount of hydrogen that does it safely, that does it productively, that does it efficiently, that meets all the necessary regulatory standards and all the contractual requirements for moving the hydrogen around. That could be a great example of how we deploy our products and solutions together to address a new industry challenge that they have. In the world of CO2, as an example, regulatory environments like the Inflation Reduction Act come forward with valuations for CO2 credits. And so individuals come to us and say, help us understand how do we take the necessary measurements, whether it's a quality measurement or a quantity measurement of CO2 that allows us to go and claim the particular regional credit structure that the CO2 is being moved around in. And so they'll come to us and say, show us how we're doing that and how we bring those solutions to bear in my individual process units, in my plant, in my particular region.
Wow. Okay. All right. So almost like not consulting, but just helping them. I mean, like you said, improve efficiency in operations and get to the end goal that they want.
Yeah, they
year over year, anyways.
They'll come to Emerson with an expectation that says, you have experts, you have experience. Bring that expertise and experience that you bring from your global engagements to my individual experience. I'm looking for you to say that what you've done in Europe, what you've done in Asia, what you've done in the Americas, how do you bring that to bear to my plant and my processing unit in order to take advantage of the global touch you have to deliver a solution locally that takes advantage of all the expertise and relevancy that you have in this particular topic. And that's really the advantage that Emerson has. Because we've been around since 1890, because we have such a strong basis of financial expertise, that gives us the foundation to be able to walk into these kinds of new arenas and say confidently, Emerson's well positioned to deploy our expertise to impact your particular challenges in the realm of sustainability.
Well, that's about all I have for you today, Keven. Thank you for taking some time. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to give the audience before we wrap it up?
Well, it's a pleasure to engage in this conversation. And Tyler, we've opened up areas of that many people might want to explore in more detail. Mm-hmm. And so I'd encourage people to reach out to me directly with any kind of questions to talk about how we can bring our competency, our capabilities, and our expertise to bear to solve their particular problems.
All right. Thank you, Keven, for joining us. I hope to get a chance to interview you again soon.
I'd look forward to it. Thank you, Tyler.
All right. And thank you to the listeners for tuning into another episode of The Main Column. Please remember to share and subscribe.
We trust you found today's episode engaging. Be sure to check out the show notes for resource links discussed. Remember to subscribe and leave a rating on your preferred podcast platform. For cutting-edge downstream technical knowledge and insights, head over to hydrocarbonprocessing.com.